It was a cold autumn evening when the midnight train to Blackridge set off from the bustling city station. The locomotive, old but sturdy, whistled into the darkness, carrying its passengers through misty valleys and shadowed forests. No one on board could have known that they were embarking on a journey that would never reach its destination. Among the passengers was Evelyn Carter, a young journalist chasing a lead on the infamous legend of the vanishing railway. Stories of a train that disappeared decades ago had circulated among locals, dismissed as folklore, but Evelyn had uncovered something intriguing, a pattern of missing trains that stretched back over a century, all vanishing along the same stretch of tracks. Determined to uncover the truth, she boarded the midnight train with nothing but her notepad, a camera, and a growing sense of unease. The train's compartments were sparsely occupied. A tired businessman clutched his briefcase, nodding off against the window. A mother held her sleeping child close, murmuring a lullaby. A group of college students laughed softly over a deck of cards. Evelyn took a seat by the window, watching the city lights fade into the dark expanse of the countryside. As the train rumbled forward, a dense fog began to roll in, swallowing the moonlight. The chatter among passengers died down as a strange silence settled over the train, heavy and unnatural. Evelyn glanced at her watch, 1:13 a.m. She scribbled in her notepad, fog thickening. Air feels different. Tension? Or just my imagination? Then, the lights flickered. A low hum filled the air, not from the train's engine but from something else, something unseen. The flickering grew more erratic, and then, for a brief moment, the lights went out entirely. When they returned, something had changed. The passengers looked around, puzzled. The businessman's briefcase was gone, vanished from his lap. The mother gasped as she realized her child was no longer in her arms but lying asleep on the opposite seat, as if placed there by invisible hands. The student's deck of cards was now perfectly stacked in the center of the table, despite no one touching it. Evelyn's breath hitched. She grabbed her camera and snapped a picture of the aisle. The image developed on the small screen, and her heart pounded. There, in the reflection of the window behind her, stood a figure cloaked in darkness, its face obscured, its eyes hollow. The train jerked violently, throwing passengers from their seats. The air grew frigid, their breaths visible as if winter had suddenly arrived. The businessman fumbled with his phone, but there was no signal. The mother clutched her child and whispered prayers. Evelyn grabbed her notepad with shaking hands. Something is happening. We are not alone. The conductor's voice crackled through the intercom, but it was distorted, words blending into static. Then, a phrase emerged, chilling and clear: "This train has no destination." Panic spread like wildfire. Passengers pounded on doors, tried emergency brakes, nothing worked. The windows revealed nothing but an endless, swirling fog. Time itself felt unstable, seconds stretching and folding in on themselves. Evelyn checked her watch again, 1:13 a.m. The same time. It hadn't moved. She turned to an elderly woman seated at the back of the train, her expression eerily calm. "You know something, don't you?" Evelyn asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman nodded slowly. "This has happened before." Evelyn's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" "This train doesn't reach its destination because it never truly leaves. It's caught in a loop, a moment stolen by something beyond our understanding. Those who vanish, they become part of it." Evelyn's mind reeled. "How do we stop it?" The woman placed a wrinkled hand over Evelyn's. "You don't stop it. You escape." The train groaned, the lights flickering faster. Shadows slithered through the compartments, growing, stretching. The passengers screamed as unseen hands grabbed at them, pulling them into the darkness. One by one, they disappeared, their cries echoing before being swallowed whole. Evelyn felt a cold grip on her wrist. She struggled, heart racing. "No!" she screamed, fighting against the pull of the void. The elderly woman gripped her other hand. "Jump! Now!" Evelyn's eyes darted to the window. It was open. When had it opened? Without thinking, she lunged, throwing herself into the unknown. Cold air whipped against her skin as she tumbled into the night. The train's whistle echoed, distant, fading. Then, silence. When Evelyn opened her eyes, she was lying on the cold ground beside the railway tracks. The sun was rising, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold. The tracks stretched endlessly in both directions, empty. No train. No passengers. She sat up, her hands shaking as she reached for her notepad. It was still clutched in her fingers, but the pages were blank. Her camera, still strapped around her neck, had only one photo saved, the reflection of the cloaked figure. The world around her was normal again. Birds chirped. The wind rustled through the trees. But something inside her had changed. She knew the truth now. The missing train wasn't just a legend. And somewhere, beyond the veil of time and reality, it was still running, trapped in an endless loop, carrying the lost souls of those who never made it off in time. Evelyn stood, her legs unsteady. She had survived. But as she stared down the empty tracks, she knew she would never stop searching for answers. Because one night, when the fog rolled in again and the whistle of a midnight train echoed in the distance, someone else would board. And this time, they might not be so lucky.